Hello everyone, this is Bill Griffin. Welcome to the Different Take Podcast. If you like this content, please subscribe, like, share, comment. I really appreciate you watching. Today, I want to talk about what's going on with the conflict in Ukraine where Russia invaded. This occurred February 24th, I believe, and today's March 23rd, so this has been going on about a month. I think Russia does not appear to be justified in this attack. There's two sides to every story, but it seems like they're not only justified, but it was a big mistake. However, I want to focus on the media coverage and what the United States involvement in this ought to be. The media coverage has been this story of good versus evil. I will talk about this a little bit later in the episode, but right now I want to show you this interview that Liz Cheney, the House of Representatives, she did an interview with Chuck Todd, and this was done March 20th, 22, and she felt emboldened to say this.
We need to stop telling the Russians what we won't do. We need to be very clear that we are considering all options, that the use of chemical weapons is certainly something that would alter our calculation. And we need to understand that, we shouldn't be in the business of, some have called it self-deterrence. Putin's actions so far have demonstrated, first of all, that the Russian military is nowhere near as capable as the world perhaps thought it was, probably not as capable as Putin thought it was. And they need to understand that if the brutality here increases, the United States will contemplate and consider every possible range of action.
So you heard it. Liz Cheney, pretty evil woman, very willing to say all options, all options. All options means nuclear weapons. It means United States troops invading Russia. I mean, that's what all options mean. And she said it twice. This is not in line with either what the American people want or what their interests are. No matter what happens in Ukraine, if Russia takes over Ukraine, that's probably not going to change the life of the average American one iota. It's hard to imagine that it would. Doesn't put us in danger or anything like that. Is it a bad thing? Yeah. Wish it weren't happening, as far as I can tell. I'm not that knowledgeable about that, but the point is Liz Cheney would never make a case. She'd never prove her case that this is necessary to improve the lives of the average American. She is only interested in this will affect our national. She uses her logic is that this could impact America's national security because it's impacting the security of NATO, and we should be leading the world and that sort of thing. We have to be number one on this. Our interests are everywhere. We must protect them, and around the world, we must be America's or the world's policeman. America must fill that role. She's not going to change her mind. Here's another example. Here she is responding to a tweet by J.D. Vance, who is campaigning for the United States Senate in Ohio. He says he doesn't care what happens in Ukraine, that it's more important to tend to issues in the United States, and that Senator Josh Hawley, Senator of Missouri, saying that the United States should not send troops to Ukraine to fight because it is not in our security interest. So this is Liz Cheney on Face the Nation, CBS program, February 27th, 2022.
Look, we've been down that road before. We've seen isolationism in both parties, and it's always been wrong and it's always been dangerous. America cannot defend and maintain our own freedom and security if we think that we're going to simply withdraw from the world and not lead. You know, we are watching today the brutality of Vladimir Putin as he attempts to invade a democratic, sovereign nation.
So there's a couple things I noticed here. The first thing is that she says isolationism is always wrong. That's just not true. The Vietnam War is a perfect example of that. The other thing that she says is that, or implies, is that these two gentlemen are talking about isolating, being isolated from the world or something. I'm not even sure what her definition of isolationism is, other than if you can't go to war whenever she feels like you should, you're an isolationist. Josh Hawley's exactly right. This is not in the United States' interest to do this, to get involved in sending having every option on the table, including sending troops to Ukraine or to invade Russia. She says all options are on the table. That's what I take it to mean. There's a big difference between being an isolationist and believing that you should be neutral in a conflict. I think the United States, because Josh Hall is exactly right, this is in our interest, should be neutral in this. And we're not. And the media is a big part of this. The media is pushing this good versus evil business, and politicians are just taking advantage of it. Here is Lindsey Graham on an interview, and he talks about the assassination of Vladimir Putin. Potential assassination of Vladimir Putin, and this was on Fox News, and this was done just a few days ago.
By the Russian people. I'm not asking to invade Russia to take him out. I'm not asking to send American ground forces in Ukraine to fight the Russian army. I am asking the Russian people to rise up and end this reign of terror for you and the world at large. That if you follow Putin, you're going to have zero future. I encourage what Zelenskyy said, that every American company leave Russia right now.
While Lindsey Graham doesn't go as far as Liz Cheney in saying all options are on the table, he says, I'm not asking for troops to be put on the ground, but he's probably not opposed to it. He's just savvy enough, well, barely savvy enough to know, been around a long time, he's kept his job for quite a while, so got to give him a little credit on being savvy, enough to know that this is a non-starter with the American public. They want no part of a war with Russia over Ukraine. So here's another video of Adam Schiff. This is on MSNBC, and this was posted on March 17th.
Putin's war of aggression to an end. So I think we all left with even greater resolve to do what we can to support Ukraine in its time of need, to rebolster its defenses, and also provide even more sanctions on Russia for this heinous act of terror.
I want to put up on the screen an outline of what President Biden has announced is being sent to Ukraine now, and 9,000 anti-armor systems, including 2,000 Javelins, 800 anti-aircraft systems, 7,000 small arm machine guns, shotguns, grenade launchers, 20 million rounds in ammunition, 100 Switchblade killer drones.
So there you have it. Adam Schiff, he's got his Ukrainian flag, American flag together, pinned. He's impressed. He doesn't cross the line, but he wants to get it as far as sending troops. But he wants to get as close as possible to starting a war with Russia without doing it, and help Ukraine. And he talks about his emotional reaction to this, and Congress's emotional reaction to President Zelenskyy. President Zelenskyy, that's not what the media was saying about him just a few years ago. So now, because Russia has invaded Ukraine, it's good versus evil. But a few years ago, Ukraine was not a good country. It was an evil country because it was corrupt. But yet you see this long list of war material that is being sent. I think there is a difference between sending this war material before the conflict and during the conflict. There's also pretty massive list there. There's also the logistics of getting this material to on the ground there, and also will they even have the resources to employ the use of these weapons? And are you just sending war material that will eventually become the property of Russia? Now, this just seems like an emotional knee-jerk reaction, which Congress often does because they think they're appeasing their constituents and so forth. It's not difficult to see just a few years ago what was being published in regards to Ukraine. This is from The Guardian. This is published. The headline reads, "Welcome to Ukraine, the most corrupt nation in Europe." It is published in February of 2015, not that long ago. It reads as follows. While the conflict with Russia heats up in the east, life for most Ukrainians is marred by corruption so endemic that even hospitals appear to be infected. Can anyone clean the country up? And then it goes on to tell a story about how the Ukraine's National Cancer Institute is corrupt. This is from a publication called New Europe. And the headline reads, and this is President Zelenskyy, they're referring to Ukrainian, this was published April 15th, 2021. That's not that long ago. And there's plenty of these articles. Ukrainian president's rule becomes increasingly corrupt, authoritarian. The media not long ago was saying that this is a corrupt country, it was authoritarian. There's also some other things said about it. It's a long list. But point is, as I said, there's two sides to every story. The media is really pushing this good versus evil. They may be right. I'm skeptical, but they may be right that it's all good and all evil. Even if that's true, it's not the United States fight. In sending war material, sending 10,000 U.S. troops to Poland to protect Poland, these are all actions that I don't think in the big scheme of things will probably make much difference in whether Ukraine survives this or not. But as I said, the worst case scenario for many people is Russia will take over Ukraine. For Liz Cheney, that is unacceptable. That can never happen. Most Americans would say that is not our fight. If that happens, sad, but it doesn't affect my life one little bit, unless you have family in Ukraine or something like that. The big point I'm trying to make is the media has a incestuous relationship with the government and bureaucrats, high-level bureaucrats, politicians, lobbyists, and that includes the military and, of course, big business, which includes defense contractors. So the Ukrainian military gets this war material they referred to earlier, and defense contractors get a payday. That's how that works. The United States just is not in our interest. And this doesn't mean you're being isolationist when I say this. It is not in our interest, in my opinion, to have troops in 150 countries across the world, which is probably more than that. But I think the last one I read was 170. But let's say it's down to 150. That is just a presence I don't understand why that is necessary. We can't solve every problem in the world, every conflict. The other thing that I'd like to point out is our military is very top heavy. They're currently something like 43 4-star officers total in the military, and we have 1.4 million service people. In World War II, there were 4 5-stars at the peak and 13 4-stars. So there were far less of those officers than today, but our military, instead of being 1.4 million, was something around 16 million service people. So I'm very concerned that this will get out of control, and then our country is sucked into something that the vast majority of the people want no part of, which I really believe that. I think a lot of people are starting to wise up and not trust the media and these things. And when they see this story where it's just totally good versus totally evil, they're very skeptical, as I am. So that's my episode for today. I really appreciate you watching. This is a Different Take Podcast with Bill Griffin. Please subscribe, like, share, comment, and I really appreciate you watching. We have episodes coming out Tuesday and Thursday of every week. Thank you.